Okay, after a tough week at work, I've now actually got 2 weeks off work, which is fabulous, which I'm going to be dedicated to my oil painting, and I'm going to be doing some watercolour painting too. So hang about a minute and I'm going to tell you what's going to be happening. Okay then, firstly I'd like to say a big thank you to all the fabulous comments I had from people on my first return video. It was absolutely lovely to take the time to reply to everyone, almost everyone. I still got a couple there to catch up with, but I've done most of them. But thank you ever so much. It meant so much, it did, to get the positive comments and to hear that so many people were happy about me involving the oil painting heavily in the channel as well now. Because what I have learnt from this is how many people actually felt that switching mediums or painting in two mediums at the same time is actually very beneficial to your painting overall. So that's something I'm going to be really focusing on as I paint, and I'm going to tell you and let you see the differences in my work as that happens. I haven't painted a watercolour yet since I've started with the oil painting, so it's going to be interesting when I go back to it, which I'm going to be doing in the next couple of weeks, which goes on to, yeah, I'm off work for 2 weeks, which is absolutely fabulous. I've got 2 weeks holiday. I may be taking a little trip down to the coast for a few days, but there'll be some painting down there if I am, and I'll let you know what's happening about that. Yeah, but that all depends on what happens with the COVID and the regulations. We could be in lockdown in 2 weeks, who knows? So it's all a bit of up in the air at the moment. Let's get on today. Today, right, what I've done is I've just done a speeded up version of a painting, of an oil painting, okay, so you can see my process. And what I might do is, when you if you've got any questions on what I'm doing, or what you think I'm doing wrong, you could ask a question, leave a comment, and I might do, depending on how many questions I get, I may do a question and answer video just to sort of read them out and give you my answers live. You know, it won't be a live session, sorry, it will be just over video, but it will give you an indication. You know, I can talk to you about what I'm thinking, and you know, about the oil painting, and it would be interesting to hear what you think too. So yeah, so you can leave a comment, but I'm going to be doing this lovely little scene. It's a Cornish scene, and it's looking over a cliff top with a little tree in the foreground. Now it's going to be done very quickly, very sketchy and very loose, because I don't want to be trying to bite off more than I can chew on the video. And I will say, this isn't an instructional video because I am not qualified to teach oils. There is absolutely hundreds of oil painters on YouTube that could teach it so well, and I really suggest if you need that, you need to go and look at their videos. Come back to me, obviously, but go and look at their videos too, because I am not an oil painter. I am learning to paint in oils. I'm in the infancy of oil painting, so you know, this isn't an instructional video because there is lots of mistakes here. And as I paint it, I've narrated over the top of the video because I needed full concentration when I was painting, because I was painting quite fast. I painted it with under an hour. Okay, so I want you to. But I've narrated over the top, and you can, you know, and I'll tell you my thought process, what I was doing as I was painting it. So let's not hang about, let's get straight into it. Maybe I'll come on after the video and we can you know, I'll chat about my thoughts about the finished painting, but we'll see. I might be too tired after that. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so enjoy it. Hope you enjoy it, and leave a comment underneath, and don't forget to like and subscribe my video if you can, and don't forget to visit my Facebook page, which is a link under the video too. Okay, so enjoy the video. Okay then, here we go. I've sped it up by about, I think it's 4 times, I think. I'm painting on hardboard basically, and I just buy it from the DIY shop. Now, I've been told hardboard is a really good surface to paint on. A, because you get a lovely smooth finish, and B, it's got no chemicals in it or anything like that, hardboard. This is what I've been told. I don't know if it's correct. And you know, the painting will last an awful long time. There's nothing in there to harm the paintings, and it's a tried and tested method. People have been painting on hardboard for many years, and I don't hear any reports about anything bad about it.
just good things. So I buy the hardboard, I cut it up into sizes. This is a 8 by 10 size painting, and then I give it I sand the edges down just with a sanding block, just to chamfer the edges slightly to smooth them off, so it's a nice finish all round. And then I give it 2-3 coats of gesso. You can see here I'm just blocking in the rough shapes of the picture, just drawing it roughly with a brush. And now I'm going straight in and putting the darks in. The major darks I can see I'm popping in. And that's just a mixture of ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. I don't think it really matters if you just use a general dark, it would be fine. But I like that colour because if you paint thinly, as you in subsequent layers, you can paint thinly and let that show through, and it kind of gives it a nice glow. It sits back well. Put the tree in. I'm not being that accurate to the photograph. Okay, I'm not slavishly following it because I want to enjoy the painting. I don't have to keep. I'm just using that as a guide. Nobody's ever going to know the difference who've been up there. I'm just kind of like enjoying the painting. I don't want to keep looking at measuring branches and things like that. So it's all about enjoyment at the end of the day and catching the overall spirit of the place. So there's some of the major blocking in. There's a distant landmass in the distance there. There's not a great sense of light in this photograph. It's quite a flat light, really. So we'll try and make the most of it without overdoing it. Just popping the sky in now, and I'm just using a little bit of cerulean blue with a little bit of white and possibly a little bit of cad yellow. Lemon yellow. Lemon yellow. It gives the sky a nice little glow, I find. And some down by the horizon there's maybe a touch of alizarin crimson, but you don't have to do that when you're starting out. You could just use the cerulean blue and white, keep it really simple if you wanted to, but make it slightly paler as you go down towards the horizon. Just putting the water in now, and I've just added a little bit of cerulean blue, possibly a little bit of Naples yellow, and a little bit of lemon yellow. I'm not overly confident on my colour mixing yet. I'm still experimenting. Obviously I know for watercolour, but oil is a totally different process, being opaque, and you're learning to mix and get the right values and colours. So that's all you've got to do, is just experiment. The distant landmass I'm just popping in with a little bit of what would it be, ultramarine blue and a little bit of alizarin crimson and a touch of yellow ochre if I want to grey it out slightly. And I just pop that in ever so roughly. I'm not trying to get exacts here, because with unlike watercolour, I find it's not so easy to refine your paintings after later on. At this stage with your colour, we're just blocking in the main shapes and main colours to get the overall feel of the painting and get rid of that bare board. Basically, it's less intimidating then. And now the beach, I'm just kind of popping in a little bit of what's it called? I've completely forgot the yellow I said earlier. That one. It will come back to me in a minute, I'll remember. And just popping that in there, and the rocks on the side there, just hinting it. Struggled with those a bit, but I wanted to keep it, because it's such a small painting, I didn't want to start doing too much detail. I just wanted to rough things in. Sorry about the fluctuating light, because this is a different setup for my watercolours. I'm not quite sure about the white balance, and it kind of goes light and dark throughout, so sorry about that. Right, now I'm just adding some darks, and this is ultramarine blue and a little bit of cad yellow to make a dark, with a little bit of alizarin crimson just to neutralise it a little bit, so it's not too bright. So it's just popping in the real darks now with a little bit of colour. And the tree, okay, now the tree I struggle with a bit. I've painted better trees than this, but I think it's because there was a time restraint and I was having to do things quickly. The tree's a bit dull for me. I wanted more colour in it, and I wanted it to glow a little bit more, but it didn't. But ultimately, by the end, it's not too bad. It kind of does the job. So I just paint the branches in, and then I can refine them. I can cut in round them later on with more blue background. because I'm just using very thin, and all I'm using is a solvent here is water. I'm not using anything else. Now you'll hear lots of people say you can't do that, but I also hear lots of people say you can, and there's no detrimental effects. If I want to add a little bit of linseed oil, obviously I use a water-based linseed oil, and I'll use that in later layers. Basically, it's the fat over lean principle, where your paints are more oily and thicker as you build the layers. So if you start with watery layer at the bottom, and then you put a fat layer which has got linseed oil in it, you can't then really put a watery layer of paint on top of that, because A, it won't stick properly, and B, you could potentially get the cracking process going on later on. So it's fat over lean is the process you've got to be thinking about. But there's an awful lot about that. If it worries you, it's not something I've even got to think about. Because it's a natural way to paint when you're painting on oils, is to make your painting sort of thicker and slightly more oil in it as you're going along. So, and when I say oil, I'm referring to linseed, water-based linseed oil, because these are water-based oil paints, for those that don't know. Hardly any smell involved in these, which is great, and the cleaning up process is just soap and water, and I just find it so easy. Just popping in a bit of the highlights on the trees here. I'm keeping the background very simple, because I don't want it fighting with the foreground. If I'm going to try and paint every little branch and every little bit of the trees in the distance, and the foreground's going to be quite busy, then it's all going to look too much. So it's all about keeping it simple, and not overdoing it, basically. Not trying to do too much. And you won't be able to do too much on a canvas this size, on a little board this size, because it's just such a small space. This is where my inexperience is showing. In watercolours, I can work very small and get quite a bit of detail in. Even though I don't paint too much detail, I can get quite a bit in. But with oils, I find it really difficult. I've been trying a painting recently, which is a boathouse. And I was trying it on an 8x10. I thought, there's absolutely no way I can paint it on an 8x10. I spent ages doing it, and it was a complete disaster when I just sort of scooped the paint off the top and reused the board. I think this might be the board that I'm reusing after that disaster. But don't worry about that. Just clean the board off with a cloth and a little bit of water, and you're good to go again with the fresh painting. So I'm just adding some greys in here to the tree, which would be ultramarine, burnt umber or burnt sienna with a touch of red in it. That could be light red, cad red. Alizarin crimson will just grey it out slightly, and you can get, obviously if you're a more experienced artist, you might have your particular ways you like to make your greys and things like that. But you can see my grey's very dead in that colour there. It's got no, I don't know, just doesn't work. It's neither, to me it looks neither warm nor cool, that grey. It just looks ugh. So that's again, where I need to really pick up my game and get things sorted. This painting took me about an hour, I guess, in total, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. I didn't want to spend it, because it was a sketchy type painting, for you guys to sort of see my process. I didn't want to be sort of labouring over it for ages. I just wanted to get it down and let you just see how I build up the layers. And as I start getting more experience, I'll pass that experience on to you. I'll share it with you. Okay, and it could be really useful. It's interesting to be painting with somebody who's not necessarily already an expert. You can learn together. I do have a reasonable understanding of painting, obviously, because of my watercolour painting, but which I think makes things easier for me, definitely. But I think the learning process, being with somebody that is probably not that experienced but knows a bit, is quite useful to those starting out to completely fresh. So I'm just carrying on to build up the foreground. It's a change of season, this painting. It's coming into autumn and the bracken's all gone, a nice orangey brown colour in the photo. And I'm trying to suggest that with a little bit of burnt sienna and lemon yellow, and a little touch of red in there, just to try not to use too much white in your mixing, because it takes the saturation of colour out and makes your painting look very chalky. So that's often a problem you'll see with amateur paintings, is they end up looking a little bit chalky looking, and that is disappointing. Do you know what I mean? When you look at your painting afterwards, you'll think, that doesn't quite look right, and you might have done a nice piece. It might be a lovely composition, but you've just overdone the whites a little bit, too much whites, and it just doesn't look right. So try and lighten with yellow, or let me just check that colour I told you I was going to say I use for the sand. Whoops, there goes the computer mouse. Bear with me. Not that one. Not that one. Oh, here we go. Naples yellow. So I use Naples yellow for the sand. Okay. And I'm just sort of like messing about with water a bit, trying to give it a little bit more interest. A little bit more cerulean blue with a bit of yellow, and just try and make it look a bit more interesting, really. This painting, if you really took your time with this painting, could be a nice piece, actually. It's interesting, actually, for those that are more the watercolour painters, more interested in the watercolour style of painting. What I might do this week, as I've promised, like a watercolour video, is a short demo, is do the similar thing, what I'm doing here, but do it with watercolour, and we'll just see how it comes out. And we can compare the oil and the watercolour. I'm hoping the watercolour will be better, but we'll see. Something I like about the look of oils, though, once you've got them in you'll see it framed after I finish this part of the video, and they do look lovely. I don't know, I do like an oil painting. I never used to be that keen. It's just something, it's the way I've changed a bit, I think, in my taste for paintings. I really do like an oil painting, especially one done really well. So where am I at now? Let's have a look. I'm just going back and fiddling with the tree, trying to make the tree look a little bit more, giving it a little bit of light and colour. But I've kind of lost my way a bit, I think, with the tree. But by the time I start suggesting some leaves and things like that on it, we can hide a few things, and that is the one good thing about oil colours, oil paints. They're somewhat more forgiving than watercolours. You can sort of cover up some big mistakes very easily, which is useful. But sometimes it's good to work your mistakes and keep going, and then you can see where you need to improve. If you want to keep a record of your failures, really, even if it's just a photograph, I suppose that's good enough. You don't have to keep the actual painting, because you might want to reuse the board or the canvas. Just going back into the sky here with a bit more cerulean blue, just to richen it up a little bit. It's a bit thin behind some parts of the tree. Now what am I going to be doing? Now just going back in, fiddling really, I think. Probably unnecessary. I'm using, for anybody that is interested, I'm using a set of brushes provided by, who are they? Jackson Art, and it's Rosemary and Co brushes, and they were in a set of, I don't know, what was it, 8 or 9 brushes, and they were basically £100. But they are lovely brushes, they really are, and they they're wearing really well. I need to get into a habit, which I'm finding hard to do, instead of trying to clean my brush out every time, is have one brush for a light colour, one brush for a dark colour, and basically, so I'd end up with sort of 5 or 6 brushes laying down, with each with a different colour that I'm using for this painting, and then I'd jump back to that every time I wanted to. But I've got this habit at the moment of just sticking it in the water, cleaning it, and what you don't get it perfectly clean, so then you end up putting a bit of a bluey tinge of paint into your reds or something, and that just a little bit will dull it down, and overall it will make your painting look a lot less vibrant and a lot less clean. So having those, working cleanly and making sure you use clean brushes and you're not contaminating your colours is essential in oil painting, or you'll just end up with mud. You really will. So also keep your colour mixes simple. I'm just fiddling around here, popping more of the blue in. As I said in the intro, I'm no expert yet, but I'm really looking forward to sharing my experience of oil paints with you. Kind of because I'm a beginner, it takes the pressure off a bit. I haven't got to be everything's not got to be perfect, so we can I can sit back and relax a little bit. So you can see I've put a few of the leaves in on the tree, just to suggest, without going crazy and put too many in. Maybe I did put too many in, I don't know. But right, we're coming up. This is almost the end. You'll see it. I popped it in a frame just to give you some idea what it looks like. And I'll just, after this part of the video is finished, we'll just assess it. There we go, in the frame.
Okay then, I don't know what you thought of that, but I've got the painting here in front of me. I'm just going to quickly give you my thoughts on it. The whole experience. It was tough doing it, having a camera there. A, because the camera's slightly in the way and you haven't got the freedom. And B, you're concentrating on it turning off and doing that sort of stuff. So it wasn't quite as easy as it usually is. It didn't feel easy anyway, but it will get easier in future. It's a bit messy as it is. I'll probably give it a bit of a tidy up, a bit of a clean up, some edges and sort of alter a few things. But overall, for a sketch, I wasn't too disappointed really. I got a bit, I struggled a little bit with the brushwork round at the end, around the tree. I kind of lost my way a little bit, but I wasn't going to slavishly follow the photograph, because if I've got to sit there referring to the photograph every 2 seconds closely, then I get stressed, I get fed up, and I lose my interest. So I'm just looking for the overall feel of it. But I'll probably talk more about that in the narration. But I hope you enjoyed it. Overall, I say it's okay. It's not too bad, but I don't mind just saying that because I'm a beginner, so it's okay. I can just sit back and enjoy the process and get better, and which there's plenty of room for, obviously. But I hope you enjoyed it, and join me for the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my Facebook page underneath the link if you can. Okay, and join me there. And my website will be up and running within the next 10 days or so. Now I've got some time off work, I'll be doing that as well. Okay, so bye for now.